Thanks for joining us here on 9 News Plus. I'm Chris Bianchi. More people can now donate blood in the state of Colorado due to an updating of blood donor eligibility. We can kind of get into what that means, but sexually active gay and bisexual men used to have to defer their blood donation for 3 months, but the new donor questionnaire now evaluates donor eligibility without gender or sexual orientation as a consideration. So that is a new updated part of things. And joining us with a bit more about this and what this means is Brooke Way from Vitalant. Brooks, thanks so much for taking the time to join us and kind of explaining what this means here.
Yeah, thanks for having me today.
So, Brooke, do you know how many more people are now eligible to donate blood as a result of this updating of those guidelines?
It's hard to say how many people will come visit us to donate blood now based on this new final guidance. But obviously, the more the merrier. We welcome anyone who is now eligible to roll up a sleeve and give blood with us to help save lives in this critical need time.
Absolutely. And we're going to kind of get into the need and how this may help out here in the next little while. But just for a kind of clarification, I kind of mentioned that it's sexually active gay and bisexual men who used to have to defer their blood donation for 3 months. That has now basically gone away, correct? And also, is that change effective immediately?
Yes, correct. And so these new questions that the FDA updated their final guidance with, they now impartially evaluate eligibility, regardless of sexual orientation or gender. So they now, determine an individual's risk for HIV, no longer having that blanket deferral for gay and bisexual men. And this is in a series of updates throughout the years that the FDA has implemented. In 2015, we had the FDA update their guidance to have a year-long deferral. And then in 2020, the FDA updated to have a 3-month deferral. And then on August 21st, Vitalant updated with the FDA's guidelines to have, this eligibility update, welcoming even more donors to come visit us.
Fantastic to hear, no doubt about that. And I know we're recording this in early September. The updating of those guidelines mentioned fairly recent over the last week, 10 days or so. Have you seen a jump in donations over that relatively short period of time since those guidelines were updated?
So the FDA makes these eligibility updates, regularly. We just saw this happen with the mad cow risk as well. So people who traveled for those areas of mad cow risk can now check their eligibility to make sure they're able to donate as well. So these happen. And so we just encourage anyone who's interested in donating blood to regularly check, Vitalant.org eligibility guidelines to see if you're able to give with us. I will say we are still in a critical blood shortage. So you asked if people have been coming in. So we actually still haven't seen as many donors as we'd like to here in Colorado. And we still are seeing an extreme shortage of different types of blood like type O. We have a 1-day supply on our shelves of type O here in Colorado right now, O positive and O negative. And so we're asking anyone who's eligible, all types, to come and give right now.
So donate blood, and in particular type O is needed, as you mentioned there, Brooke. How are you trying to get the word out about this updating those guidelines? If anything, is there, obviously we're doing this interview here. I'm sure that's part of the strategy. Are there other parts of the effort to try and get the word out to try and reach more of those eligible donors now?
Yeah, correct. We're doing these media interviews. Like you said, we are posting on social media to get the word out. Vitalant is sending email updates on these eligibility guidelines to potential donors. So we're trying to make people aware that this has happened and to make sure they're eligible and come visit us. We also are working with government agencies and industry partners to make sure to get the word out as well. The majority of the U.S. population is eligible to give blood, but only 3% do. So we're hoping this opens up an even greater population that is eligible to come give with us so we can have those new first-time donors walking in our doors.
I guess going back to the original point of all this, which is that, again, sexually active gay and bisexual men used to have to defer their blood donation for 3 months. What was the reason for previously not allowing that, and just being transparent about that? I was fairly unaware of the fact that here in 2023, that was still a case.
Correct. Vitalant obviously has to follow FDA guidelines. But those questionnaire guidelines are in place for safety purposes, for infectious disease testing purposes. And so, this new questionnaire now impartially evaluates an individual's risk of HIV rather than, a blanket deferral, like I said, for gay and bisexual men. So, like I said, this is a series of FDA updates that have been happening to get us to this point. And we're really honored at Vitalant because Vitalant was one of the lead research organizations to give the FDA some of this data and some of this science to back these updated guidelines. And we continue to lead research to help make more donors eligible to give.
Absolutely. I just kind of want to reiterate what you said there as well about active need for blood donations. Maybe putting that into a bit of context, you're saying there's that critical need, one day supply of shelves for type O in particular. How does this compare maybe to some recent shortages amongst the bigger shortages you've had in recent months, years? How does that compare?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we've seen one of our toughest years this year for blood shortages. We had one in January, we're in one again, and that's because we're coming out of, those holiday times. We just were in a summer break, so a lot of people were traveling, kids were out of schools, and our high schools are a big source for those blood drives for us. So it's just a tough time with the summer months. We're also seeing a drop by about 20% of donors coming in across the U.S. From before the pandemic to now. So we're thinking people are living and playing and going about their lives differently than they used to before the pandemic. So we're really encouraging people to make blood donation a regular habit again, now that, things are getting back to, I guess, quote unquote normal. And we want to make sure that everyone knows blood donation is needed on a regular basis for those patients who need it most.
Interesting about some of those background causes for the current shortage. To me, anything else, Brooke, to add about this?
So I would just encourage everyone to visit vitalant.org to review these eligibility updates. We have an eligibility section on the new final guidance updates if you are interested in learning more about this latest update. We just want to encourage anyone who's never tried before to just give it a shot. People come in regularly. We have donors who are hitting 90 gallons with us. They love it. They love the feeling of giving back in such a way that they know they're saving someone's life.
Thank you so much for joining us and doing this. We appreciate it, Brooke. It was awesome.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.